So these were the slides which we covered yesterday. So I'll give 5 minutes to the slides. So we started with one of the famous examples, which was a website Make My Trip example. And we understood by this example that how an API works and how we provide an input parameters to this website and how this website is talking to all other airlines, and we are getting the response in a single format, which is like readable through the user's interface. Okay, so this was one example. And then we got to know about like the technical definition of what is an API. So an API is just a programming interface, and it helps us to do a two-way communication between a client and a server. So this is a request and response kind of two-way interface. Okay. And there's a one more example. It's on YouTube. If you want, you can just go and check it. It tells you how a website or how an API actually works. So then we saw that what is a web service. So we read through this that what exactly web service is and how it is different from API. So APIs are actually the evolution of web services. So then we saw there are two types of web services. One is the SOAP and REST. We discussed that SOAP is still being used by many legacy systems. It was originally developed by Microsoft, and as it was like an old service, so it has some shortcomings. So which was taken care by REST. So we have a new web services, and it's called a REST web service. So it addressed all the shortcomings of SOAP service. And in most of the projects which we are working right now, we try to build the project on REST web services. So this was some more details about RESTful web services, that it was stateless, and if you want to improve it, you can use the cache mechanism, and it's a lightweight applications, these things. So I'm not going too much into the details because we have already covered these slides. So just going through once, so you'll be able to remember what we covered yesterday. Then we saw the methods involved in RESTful. So in this course, even in MuleSoft, or if you go to any course, they will more focus on this REST web services, because there actually the work is mostly happening and all the connectors are based on REST APIs. We have something like 10-15% of SOAP also. We will cover that in our real-time project, SOAP and REST, both of the application. So mostly we'll focus on REST. So if you see REST services, it has few methods like post method, get method, put method, patch method, and delete method. So these are the methods. Like suppose if you're talking to an API, we specify the method to them that, okay, we want get, so we are providing some input to you. Please provide the output for us. So that is how get method works. And if you want to just post some new things to some API, then we will use post method. Similarly, we will have delete method if we have something already posted. Suppose there are 10 flights running on Indigo website and they want to take down one flight. So they will use this delete method and they can take down that flight. So this is how it works. And we then saw by example that how these methods are actually working. So let me go to the arc. So we saw there was an advanced test client. So I told you that it is exactly a copy of like how your Chrome browser works. So this is used for API testing. So you can use advanced test client, or some people will use Postman also to do the testing of the API. So I had this example where I was just checking how many flights are there for this endpoint. Okay, so I'll just give this flights, and if you observe, my method is get. So when I send a request, I can see all the flight details coming for this airline. Okay, so these things we saw yesterday, and then if you want, you can just send, like if you want to see only the flight number with ID3, you can just give ID3, and we call this as a URI parameters. So whatever we are passing in the web address, it can call an URI parameter or a query parameter. So in this case, it's called an URI parameter. So if you see, we'll send 3, so we'll get only the flight number 3. And then we saw our query parameters also. So this is how we provide a query parameter. That suppose you are on an Indigo website and you want to see flights only for Delhi. Okay, you're traveling from Bangalore and you want to see flights only from Delhi. So you provide a destination is equal to Delhi. So it will show you flights only for this destination. Okay, so if you observe, now our destination is only LAX. So these things we saw, and we also have taken the famous example of Make My Trip. So I'll quickly go through that also. So we observed that normally in every day-to-day place, we use this Make My Trip app to book our flights and hotels. But in this case, what we wanted to see is that if we provide something as an input and like from and to and some date, and when we click on search, how this web address change, because we will be dealing with API and this endpoints are important in that. So if you do a search, you'll see all these details. So you'll see a flight resource, and under that you'll see search. And when you go to, so after the search, you have this itinerary. So this is called a query parameter. And in itinerary, you have these details. So it's saying Bangalore to IXR, which is Ranchi. The code of Bangalore is BLR and Ranchi is IXR. So date and the return date. Okay, and then there is another query parameter, which is the trip type. So it is saying R. What does R means? It's a round trip. So these things we did not provide. We provide only this Bangalore and IXR and date, and rest things it is automatically taking. Okay, so these are by default set at their website. So just that you can define your web like website, and you can provide all the details, and in real time you can talk to all these flights. So we are talking to all these flights and sending this data to this flight. Okay, that we want a flight from Bangalore to Ranchi on this date, and these flights are sending all the details they have for that flight. So similar example which we saw, that we are providing a destination and we are getting the same flights. Okay, so and apart from this, let's see what we covered yesterday. So we had an hands-on. So this we saw that we made a call to an API, flights. We used the query parameters, destination. We used the URI parameters, and then we have 3 to 4 more slides left. And then we saw how we can develop a similar Mule application. So we went to the Mule Anypoint Studio, where we have covered that how you can just like within 5 minutes you can make your own API. So we saw that how we have made an Hello World API. So for today's session, we will cover from here. So I'll wait for 2 minutes. If any of you have any questions from yesterday, or Shiva, if you have any questions which we discussed right now and you're facing any confusion on that, so we can address, and then we can start for today's session.
Yeah, so Kumar, one help.
Yeah.
I need some help for, if you could explain whatever the basic Mule flow you created yesterday.
Okay.
I know it's a double work for you, but if it takes like 5 minutes and if you could explain, that would be great. If it takes more than that, that is fine.
Sure. I can go through that. It will not take even 5 minutes. So I'll just create a new flow. Okay.
Yeah,
so these things are clear, and we'll start with our new flow. Okay. So let's delete this flow, and then we will create a new flow. Okay, it's better to create a new project only, so you'll have idea of. Okay, so this is Anypoint Studio. Right now we did not speak much about Anypoint Studio, but for now you should only know that all the API which MuleSoft will be working on will be created here only. So if you're a MuleSoft developer, around 60 to 70%, uh, at least 70 to 75% of your work will be in this Anypoint Studio. So this is provided by MuleSoft, and we will see in details all this folders and the structures and the Mule palette. We will see all those in details. Okay, but right now we'll not focus on that because as it's a new session, so we'll try to just jump on the new project and then later we'll go in depth. So if you want to create a new project, this is how you create. You just go to file, you go to new, and there's a Mule project option. Okay, so then you have to provide the name of the project. So you can provide any unique name which is unique to your local system. So I'm providing this name, Mule Project 61. So, and then the runtime version is already selected. We'll also speak about this, what is the runtime version. Then you have to just click finish. And the rest will be taken care by MuleSoft. So it takes like 10-15 seconds and you see our Mule Project 61 is created. And these things, source main Mule, main resources, GRE system library, sockets, SRC, pom.xml, everything is created by this Mule project. Okay, so we don't have to worry about all those things. We just have to work on this. So that is why Mule is hot and like a happening tool right now, because all those things which we used to do previously by coding and by setting this like this project structure would take you like 1 to 2 days to set up this whole project structure. Now this is happening in 20 seconds and you can just make your application and just deploy it anywhere in any system or cloud or anywhere. So we have 3 sections here. One is the message flow, other is global elements and configure XML. So this is the window where you will be working, and this is where you will be just dragging and dropping and just configuring the elements which you want to do. And if you want to see how it's getting coded in the backend, this is how it will be coded in the backend. So right now we have 3 lines of code. It just says the schema location and few default things. So we don't have to worry about this. But as soon as we add new elements, the code will get generated here. Don't worry about this code. We never touch this code. You just have to work on the this window. But just for extra information, I'm telling that this code will be get added. Okay, so now this project goal is that there is an API. So when we have an API, we have to talk to that API, right? If we want to send some request, this is just like a Chrome browser, right? So if you want to send some request to that API, it should listen to that our request, right? Without listening, we will not be able to talk to that API. So we are doing an HTTP based API. So we just have to go to HTTP and we have to pick a listener. So you'll just click this listener and drag and drop here. So it's that easy. We'll get a HTTP listener. So whenever we want to talk to the API, we will provide our details of which address we are talking to, and then it will listen and send us a response. So now we have this HTTP and we have this listener. So we have to configure this. So just see this as an example of your postman or post delivery system, where your postman gets a letter from somewhere. It can be any relative or any company, and he wants to deliver that letter to your address. So first of all, we have to just be aware of 2 things, that he's getting a letter from some party, right? Some any third party or anyone. So in our case, what will be our letter? Who will be sending that letter? So it can be any system. Any system it can be Salesforce, it can be Oracle, or it can be anything who wants to send that letter to us. So for the letter to be correctly delivered, we have to have a proper address. Then only that postman will come and deliver that address, deliver that letter to you. So this is where we define the address. In technical term, it's called configuring your HTTP listener. But for a basic term, you can just set like setting up the address of your house like that. So anyone can come to this place and just talk to the system and get back the response. So what are the things we have to configure? First is the connector configuration. So it's very simple. Just have to add and everything will be by default configured. So the protocol, it says HTTP. So by default, host is all interfaces. This means all interfaces means it's open for anyone. Like we don't have a restriction that anyone can come to our home and can deliver a letter. So we don't have a security guide card kind of thing. And the port is 8081. So this is also by default for HTTP. So we'll just click an OK, and you'll see that our connector configuration is completed. Next to that, we have just path. We have to provide the path. So we can provide any path, like it's just your street address kind of thing. So let's see, let's provide a hello path. Okay. So as this is a first project, so normally we do a hello world project. So that's what I'm trying to build. I'll just make a hello world project where we will send our request and we will be greeted back from the API hello. Okay. So this is how our path will look. And now our listener is listening. So basically our house is set up and we have a address to our house. So anyone can just come and talk through the advanced REST client and can come to our house. Next is you have your house set up. The next thing is you want somebody at your house to greet hello or to do anything, any kind of work, right? So for that purpose, we will use a component called set payload. So there are many components present here in Mule, but right now we'll use the basic component, which is set payload. We'll again drag and drop it here. So what set payload does, like it will set any kind of message which you want. Okay, so nothing major we have to do any changes here. We'll just come to the value and we will just say hello. So it can be hello world or it can be anything. Let's say only hello right now. So now we are done with our configuration and we have a listener which will listen and we have a person in the house which is set payload and it says hello. So as soon as it comes here, our letter comes here, then it will go to this person and it will say hello and then it will provide a response to our API and we will receive a response as hello. Okay, so now we have to just write down this HTTP localhost 8081. So this was our, if you remember, we use HTTP protocol, and as this project is deployed on my local, so that's why I have to use localhost. And this is a port which I have to use 8081, and then I have to give my path, which is hello. Okay, so now I have the complete address of that place, and if I send a request, it will go to that place. But before that, we have just developed the API, right? We developed the API, but we have to deploy this API. Unless and until we deploy this API, we'll not be able to talk to the system. It will not be ready to accept our request. So Mule normally in any environment, if you have done any coding or anything, you build your code and then you click a run button to deploy that API, right? So similarly, we have our deployment in this only. We have a Mule runtime in this Anypoint Studio, and we can just run our project by clicking this one, and it will start running. So this is how it will start running. So if you see, it's launching Mule project, and it will set up all the basic things for us. It will just create our project and deploy it to the local runtime. It takes like 20 seconds to deploy, and then we'll be ready to talk to this API. So this is, if you want to call it in technical terms, it's an API because we can talk to that API. The API definition is you should have a two-way communication. So whenever you're giving a request, you should get a response back. Okay, so you can see that. Yes, Shiva, you have any questions?
Yeah. So the listener is like, if we have some API and then someone wants to, we are giving access to the outside world,
Yeah,
then we use listener. Is that
right,
correct?
right. It's exactly that. So it's like a gate, like if you have a society and this acts like a gate. So here you
Okay.
can configure many things. Like I was showing you that we have HTTP. If you give HTTPS, so it will be a secure gate. So it will be just an added security that no one like who's not known to the society, they can't come. And then you can change the host. So that also now it is open to anyone. Okay, anyone can come and access this. So it is like that. So it's just a gate of the society, and then we have people inside it. If you want to understand from that example. Okay.
Thank you.
So now our API is developed and it is deployed. Now we will talk to our API and see if you're getting back the response. So this is our address, and now we'll just send a hit and see. We get a response of 200. So if you have not worked with HTTP before, so we have the status codes for HTTP, and it is very important. Even if you have like used the Chrome browser or any browser, sometimes you receive this 500 server error or some 400. So these are HTTP status code. So normally for 200 status code, it means like it's okay, like it's success. So we got a success response, and whatever we defined there, hello, we are getting back. Okay, if you want to change and you want to write anything else, we'll do that also. Like suppose if you want to do hello, and then you'll do a hello world now. So we just have, I'm providing this under curl inverted commas and then saving it. So now the output should come as hello world. Again, this as I have made change in our API, so I have to redeploy it again. Then only it will be reflected. So I will clear this. You don't have to clear, I'm just showing it to you. And then again, right click, stop this project and run it. So the project is deployed, and now we are expecting a response, hello world, whenever we are hitting this path. Which path? It is a hello path. Okay. So when we go back, this is our hello path. Now previously we used to get a response hello. Now if we send a request, it will send you a hello world, right? So we know that our API is working, but right now, if you see, it is giving the response which we set there. Okay, but we want to modify our API. We want to get a response according to like we want to get a response in what what we send. Suppose I am sending name is equal to, suppose I'm sending if you see, I'll send a name as something like Max, and I want a response, hello Max. Okay, so this will be a dynamic dynamic call and dynamic response. So how I can build that? So it is also simple. First of all, this is called a URI parameters. So there are two kinds of things which you can pass in a request. One is the query parameter, and the second one is the URI parameters. So whenever you pass a slash after your address, it's called a URI parameters. You can pass a number, you can pass anything like the name or whatever you like, you can pass in this box. But always we don't use URI parameters because it's little limited. So we use the query parameters box. So to use query parameters, we just have to do a question mark and the name of your query parameter. So I'm giving f name and I'm giving the name is equal to max. So this is how I pass a query parameter. So if you observe the make my trip flight, it is using query parameters. So from here, this was the first query parameter. Okay, itinerary is equal to this. So in real time, we are passing these values to make my trip, and then make my trip will store these values and send to all these airlines in parallel. Okay, and it is using a second query parameter, which is trip type. Okay, and then third parameter. So you can use multiple query parameters in one of the request. Okay, so this is how we will also try to achieve that. We want to send a URI parameters first, and then we will try to do the query parameter thing. Okay, so let's go to our Mule application. And as it was not like it was just
So I
listening
have a
to.
query.
Yes, yes, Najma, please.
You said that we are deploying it.
Yes, yes.
Where are we? Where is it getting deployed?
Yeah. So this Anypoint Studio, it comes with its own runtime engine. Okay. So here we have the capability to design, deploy, and debug. So that is why I told you you'll be spending 70% of your time on this Anypoint Studio. You don't have to go to any other place. You just have two tools with you. One is this, from where you will send a request, and to the Anypoint Studio. So it is getting deployed under this only, under Anypoint Studio only. Okay.
Okay.
Because right now, like if you build any project, you'll deploy it. So this is a Mule runtime engine in Anypoint Studio, and we are deploying it here. And once your project, yeah.
So when the listener you are giving the connections, something local and everything you are giving, is there
Correct.
where it is setting?
Sorry, is there?
Is there where it is getting deployed?
No,
In
no.
the
So this is like I told you, simple words. It's just the address. Okay,
yeah.
address. So it's not getting deployed here. It's just the address. So this, just consider this whole block as an application. Okay,
Okay.
and this is the gate of the application, gate of the society. Okay, so you can take this application. This is what we do in real time. We take this application and we can deploy it anywhere. Right now I am deploying it in my local. In the coming classes, I'll deploy this in MuleSoft Cloud Hub, which is backed by AWS. Okay, so
Okay.
I'll just like export this project. There's an export option. I'll export this project and I'll get a jar file out of it. Okay, and I'll just go to Anypoint Studio and deploy this application. So once it is deployed in cloud, anyone can hit. Even you can hit the same application and you can get hello world or whatever we have set. So the only change there will be the address, because right now it is at my system, right? So the address is different. If I deploy it in cloud, it will have a different address, right? Make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'll
Thank
show you that Anypoint Studio also, where we will deploy. So we have this Anypoint platform, and under this we have runtime manager. So these all things will cover in detail, but right now, as you had a doubt, so I'll just show you that how it is getting deployed. Okay, so we'll choose any environment. It's design environment or sandbox environment. And in design environment, I don't have any application running. Let's see if we have anything in sandbox. So see, I have deployed two application, and this is deployed in cloud. So I have made two application, training for American and training for American again. And these two applications are deployed on Cloud Hub. If I open this application, first of all, let's understand what are these applications. So I made these applications under the Anypoint Studio. If you see, there is a training for American here. Okay. If I open this, it's similar to this project. Let me just open it. And then you will see again a flow. So this is the flow which I have made. See, just a three piece code where it is just talking to an Oracle database here, and we're just select star from American. So this American flight is storing data in their database, and we're just fetching that data. And this is a simple API. Okay, and I have deployed this API in my runtime manager here. So what I did an export, and I came to runtime manager, and when I open it, you'll see that application file. So I was talking about that jar file, right? You have to just choose your file and you can import, and you can just import the file here or upload the file, and then your application will start running by configuring few details. So this is a cloud hub. This is like actually your system is running on AWS cloud. So if you see it is from the app URL also, you will get to know that it is running in US East 2. So this is a location also that will tell that where this application is hosted. Okay. So I can stop this application or I can restart or delete this application from runtime manager. So hope that doubt is clear for you that right now we are deploying it in local, and
Yes.
later when we are done with our project, we will deploy it in Cloud Hub. Okay. Okay. So we were doing a change in our URI parameters, right? We were trying to see that what if we provide a value, so how it will talk in real time. Okay. So as we have changed that, like we will be sending a value, so we have to inform our listener that hey, we will be providing a value, so be ready for it. Okay, be ready to store that value. If you don't provide that, then it will not be ready, right? So for that, we just have to do that in our address. We have to add a slash and we have to add a curly braces, and we can get any name. It's just setting a variable. So we can provide like f name or anything, right? So what will happen is he will understand, our listener will understand that at this address, if someone is sending me some parcel or some value, I have to store at this place, f name place. This can be anything, you can write anything, there's no restriction on that. It just have to be in curly braces. Okay, so this will understand that I have to store a value whenever someone is sending a real-time value. I will store it in this place, and then when it is stored in your local, like in your listener, then I have to make use of it, right? So what I will do is I will add plus plus, and then there is a code called attributes. This also we will learn in DataWeave. Dot, this is URI params. So as I said, it's a URI param. So we have something like that, URI params, and the name of the value which we stored, which is fname. So we will give dot fname. Okay. So this is as simple as that. We will remove the world hello, and whatever we will sending, it will show plus hello plus plus that thing. So this whole thing will give the value of whatever we are sending. In the starting, it can look like little complex or something, but it is very easy. It's just using dot operator to fetch your values. Okay. Now we have set URI params dot f name. Now,
If it is a regular parameter, how do you
yeah.
give the notation?
So this, as I told, we have two kinds of parameters which we can send in a request. So first is URI parameters, and the second is the query parameters, right? So right now I'm doing for URI parameters. If it's a query parameter, I'll just change it to query params here, just that, query params. And again, the name which it's storing. But in this case, it's the query parameter, I don't have to store it. So that is the advantage of our query parameters. We will not have to store here. It will automatically know, okay, they are sending something in query parameters value, and I will store it in my place, and then I can use it in the later period.
Okay, so if it's a query parameter, we can. Oh, okay. So if it's a URI parameter, then you have to name it there.
Yes.
If it is a query parameter, you can just refer the name directly here.
Correct. Exactly. That's correct.
Oh, okay.
So we will see that also, that how it is storing. Don't worry about it. So now I will do it in debug mode. Then you will be able to see. Okay. So yeah.
What is the maximum number of either URI parameters or query parameters we can use?
So URI parameters right now we are using only one. We can provide more also. There's no limitation.
Is there a maximum? Oh, okay.
No, there's no limitation on that. But ideally, you'll not be sending too much of request, right? Because the request which we'll be sending, it's from the user input, right? So you have to think like that also, right? This API is we are building for some customers, right? So we'll try to minimize the input from the user. If they are giving more inputs, then it will be more prone to errors, right?
Yeah.
So
okay.
if you like, I'll tell you how, like make my trip we use, right? That example we use. So here, the make my trip is just restricting us to use only few query parameters and few input. And even if you see, they are not giving it a free text. They are just restricting and providing the code from the drop down, like a lookup. If you want to just prove, like name a city, anything, like any Jamshedpur something, you'll provide. So it's giving, but you have to take it from here. So why it is doing that? Just restricting the errors from the users. Okay.
Okay.
So we try to restrict the number of inputs from the user, and if we have more inputs from the user, then we will use a different method, which is a post method. Okay. In post method, I'll give you another example. So whenever you create a new account, like a new Facebook account or new Google account, then you get all list of parameters, right? Where you provide your first name, last name. So there you are doing a post request. Okay. So we will see that example today also, that how we are doing a post request. Okay. So now we were seeing query URI parameters, but let's see with query parameters first. So I have set this value attributes dot query params dot fname. Let's deploy this project again. So I'm running this project. I'm saving this project here, and let's make our request also ready. So it's a query parameter. So I will have to change this request, and I have to provide a question mark, and I have to provide fname is equal to max. So I have to just see again what I have provided here. So my query parameters name, which I'm referring, is fname. So if I provide fname, then only it will be able to fetch it, right? If I don't provide fname, then it will not be able to fetch that. So I'm just providing fname is equal to max, and we'll wait. Okay, so it is already deployed. Let's send the request and see what output we are getting. So see, now we are getting hello max. If you want to change, and you can provide anything like any other request. Let's see if it is working. Hello Sam. We'll just change to some other name, and it will work. So this is how query parameter is working, and we are talking to an API. So this is a two-way communication. This is what I wanted to show you. Now if you want to change to URI parameters, okay, so before that, I'll show you one more thing, okay, at how internally it is happening, how in debug mode it's happening. So right now I have stopped my project. I will clear this screen, and when I right click, I have two options: run the project or debug the project. So mostly as a developer, you use this debug function, so to see how your request is coming and how it is going to each of the components. So we call this one component. This is a second component. We can add one more component. It will be a third component. So how your message is moving from this component to this component. Okay. So for that, we have a debug project. And this is a very good feature and very handy feature when you work with Mule. So you will always use this feature to know that how your request is moving from one processor to another processor. Again, we will have a lots of information when you see in debug mode, but don't worry about those. We just have to see what we want, what is helpful for us. Okay. So now our project is deployed. We have one more window, which is Mule debugger window. Okay. And once you do a debug, you have to provide a breakpoint. Okay, so as soon as you do a right click here, you get a breakpoint. What is breakpoint? So whenever your request will come here, it should be stopped. Okay, suppose if you want to understand from an example, from a layman example, so it is just that a postman or delivery boy comes to your society, and it will be stopped by the security guard. So that's what I did. It will be stopped here, and then the security guard will check all the details, like his what it is, what he is carrying, what is the parcel, and all those things we will check. And then if we think that it's good, then we can allow it to move forward. Okay, so right now we have only one application, so only one breakpoint we have. if we had more applications, more components here, then we get to see all the flow happening in real time. Okay, so let's observe that what request we are sending and how it is being processed in the backend. So I will send the same request, fname is equal to Tom, and as soon as I send, it is still moving. It's not giving me the output yet, right? Because it is being stopped there, and we have to go and inquire that what is that. So if you see, the Mule debugger has something right now. Previously it was blank. So our guard has stopped that person, and it has asked all this question, and it has got this response. Okay, so we have to see what all the information and request it is carrying. So if you see our component, I have used attributes. So there's a keyword and there's a folder attributes. Under that folder, we have query parameters folder, and under that we have our fname. So we will just think of it as a folder that it is storing information under the folder. So we have attributes here. We will just click on it, and then we can see all these informations. There are so many informations. If you want, I can just tell you about it, but yes, we will debug all this in the coming lectures. Okay, for now we can see there's a listener path. So what is the path it's coming? It has the address with this. It is the local address of my PC. It is taking. Then all this serial version ID. These things will not worry about it. Like, it's not of our use. We will see right now only the query parameters, right? Which we are sending. We are sending a query parameter of fname. So here we have query params, right? As soon as you click it, you can see there is one value, fname is equal to Tom. If you're able to see this, okay. So this is under attributes, and under attributes we have query parameter and fname. So we will know, okay, this guy is carrying a parcel of fname. So we will allow this guy, and we have this option that it should go to the next processor. Okay, he is passed from this gate, let him go to the next processor. So we don't have any other processor, so it will just go and give us back the response. So we'll do a next processor, and we got back a response. Everything is gone. So he has gone, he has given us the response, and he has left the society. So when we see, we got the response and it is stopped, right? So this is how you will use a debug project. So that is how Mule becomes really and really easy, that you have this functionality. Even when you deploy your application, you can see at real time how it is behaving in each of the component. Okay. So any questions till now?
No.
Okay. So if you want, we will see the URI parameters also. So for URI parameters, we just have to provide a variable where it can store that. Okay. So we will provide fname, and then again we have to make changes to our code. So we will know that it is URI params. That's all. Attributes dot URI params and dot the name of the variable which we are storing at fname. Okay. So we will again debug this project, and I'll show that how this is changing if you provide the URI params. So also we have to change our request, because right now we are sending a query param request. So let's send a request here, and let's say it's Sam. Okay. So we will be sending a value of Sam in this address. So our Mule debugger is empty now because it does not have any value, and it's still deploying. So it will take like 5 seconds. Yeah, it is deployed. Our project is deployed, and we have this breakpoint, and we will send our request. This is our request. We will send it. Again, it's waiting. So we have to go to our Anypoint Studio, and we have to inquire about what are the details it's carrying. So when we go to our attributes, we'll observe that this time in query params, we don't have any value. If you see query params, it is 0, right? So where our value will be stored is, it will be stored in URI params. So if you see in URI params, we have a value and it is storing f name is equal to Sam. Whatever I have provided is equal to Sam. Okay. So now it looks good to me, and I'll allow this, and I'll let it pass through. So I'll just do a next processor, and then if you go to our response, we get a response, hello Sam. So this was just to show you that how simple it is to create a project. You may be wondering that, yeah, it is a very simple project like hello world and hello Sam. So this looks easy, like this 10 minutes we could create and we could understand. But if you see my other projects, like this one I had made, this one, so this is also a very simple project, only 2 processes. So what we had to do is we just had to use a database connector from here, and if you click on the database connector, you'll get all this option, that bulk insert, select. So I use this select one, dragged it here. Just configure your database. Configuring means you'll get all these details from your Oracle team, right? You'll get the host name, the port name, these details you'll get, and you'll just have to provide these details, and your database is configured. And then you can write your query, whatever you want, and you'll get a response here. So this is just a normal response. I have just coded it. Hi ID is equal to payload.id. Don't have to worry about this. This is very simple. If you write, it will not take again 5 minutes to write this one. It's not coding. It's, if you see, it's plain English, that I have a column ID and I'm using payload.id. I have a code and I'm trimming and using this. I have a price like this. So don't worry about this. It looks simple. So I'm just getting flights from American. So this is just a real-time example of how MuleSoft will work and how the project is working. So this is a very simple, and you can like normally we get a requirement, and within 1 or 2 days we will just develop an API and we'll send it to the required team. So I'll close this project, and this was our Mule project which we developed. So we'll go back to the slides and see what else we are yet to cover. So we covered this query parameters, American flight with the URI parameters. Okay, so now we will just cover how we use the method delete and how we use how we post a request to a new response. Okay, so we will go back, and so this was our endpoint. So right now I'm using this endpoint, and it was provided by MuleSoft. Okay, so MuleSoft has provided this for training purpose. So what they have done is they have built a website, okay, website API, okay, and they have provided this address to me, and I can just query that API and get whatever response I want. Like I was doing a hello, right, and I was getting a hello back. So here, if I do and just do a get call, I'll get all the flights back. So this is how MuleSoft has developed this API. You can also develop the same API. It will not take much time. But as the first session, we are just using the API which is already built. So as I showed you that we can do, if you want a flight number 3, so you can just give a URI parameters and flight number 3 or 4, anything, and you'll get that flight for you. So we'll get ID 4 and flight number 4. And if you want to provide the query parameters, you can just give question mark and the destination, and you can provide any destination, LAX or SFO, and you'll get flights to SFO. So these two we saw already. Now what we will do is, suppose you are a like a developer and of Indigo airline, and you're working with Indigo airline, and in the pandemic they want that, okay, there are 10 flights running and we don't want to run those many flights, so let's delete those flights from the site website. So we use this delete method, and we just provide the flight ID. Suppose I want to delete flight number 5, so I'll provide the flight number 5 and I'll use a delete method, so it will just delete the flight. So if you see flight deleted here, but actually we're not deleting it because it's a training module, so we don't want to mess up the data. So but in real time, this is how it will happen. You just have to provide the data and it will delete. if you have the right method used. Okay, so this is how easy it is to delete a flight. Now, suppose the pandemic is over and you have added new flights, which is to the new destination. So you want to send it to the website, the Make My Trip website. So how you will do that? So that is where you use a post method. So post method gives you an ability to post data to your API. So previously we were just using the query parameters and URI parameters. But in real world, if you see, we can't give like much details through query parameters and URI parameters, right? So we have a post method, and when we do a post method, we get a body option. So this is what I was talking about when I said that when you create a new login or new sign up to a new page like Facebook, Instagram, Google, or anything, then you provide all your details there, right? So at that time, you are using a post method. Post method as in you are posting your data to that website, to Facebook, and they are storing it in the database. Okay, so right now our goal is to post the data of a flight, of a new flight, and we want to add that to the existing list of the flights. So for that, we have to provide a value, right? We will have to provide the details of the flight, that what is the flight number, from where it is going, what is the destination. So I already have this details with me. You can configure according to your need. Just to save the time, I have this details. I'll just copy and paste it here. So I have code, I have price for that airline, I have departure date, origin, destination, empty seats, and plane type. So these are the details I'll be sending. So observe one thing here, that I have just given the post method and I have given the address. Okay, I have not provided anything else. So let's see if this works or not. Okay, if you click send, you'll get an error, which is 415 unsupported media type. So this is what is happening in real life also, that you are passing some blank data and you're not providing any kind of the like what kind of data you are providing, right? Anything which you provide, you have to provide that which format it is. Is it a CSV format? Is it a JSON format, and what kind of format? Okay, so that is why we have to provide a format. So how we can provide the format? Here we have MIME type, and if you see here we have all those JSON, XML, HTML, CSS. There will be more options if you change, and there will be more options. But right now we will see that this is a JSON. This is a JSON payload. So what is a JSON payload? Whenever we have something as key value pair, so we call this as a JSON payload. So we have a code key and we have value for it. We have a price key and we have a value for it. So in real world, in API worlds, this is the most common method any API is using. Most common and very easy to use. So if you remember, in last 6 months there was a attack on Domino's website, and all the user details were stolen, and it was sent to a website. So you could go to that website and you could technically just search your phone number, and you could see that how many orders you have placed since you had account from that number. And that data, interestingly, the data was in JSON format. So there were millions of user data which was breached. So just for example, I was saying that the Domino's and many other websites are still using JSON format. So they did not had a good security mechanism. That's why it got stolen from that. Okay, but it doesn't mean that JSON is not prone to security. It's just an easy way to send your data. Okay, so I have provided the method, I have provided the input and the same method. Now I'll send and see if it's working. So see, now it is working, flight added. So my API understood, okay, the data which he's passing, it's in understandable way and I can accept this data. And that is why I get a code 201 created. So this is again HTTP code. So whenever it is a success, we get a 200 code. Whenever we create something, we get a 201 code. Okay, so this flight is created on this airline. So we covered here, and now we will see one interesting thing. So I think this is clear for you, right? Any doubts on this? Or we can move ahead.
We can.
Okay. So there's one more thing, like if you sign up to a new site, if you don't provide a value which is required, then it will give you an error, right? So here we will see that how this is giving us an error if we don't provide any of these values. So suppose I don't want to provide the empty seats. Let's remove this empty seats value, and let's see if I'm providing without the empty seats, will it provide error or will it get created? Okay, so let's try an error. Send. So see, I get a bad request. So this means this is a required field. So without this field, our value, our flights will not be created. So empty seats is a required field. So this is what you see when you create, when you go to any of the website, you get that required field, right? Asterisk mark with red one. So this is what it is depicting, that it is a required field and you have to provide this value. Now the question is where we are defining this value, because as a developer, you will be doing all this coding, that you will do a code and you will say, is it required or is it not required? So I'll show you that where this flight is getting, right now we use this flight example, right? We will go to this code and we will see how this is made. So let's go to our AnyPoint Exchange. Yeah. So this is our AnyPoint MuleSoft training, where all the APIs are stored. So I told you most of the APIs will be REST APIs. So we can see so many REST APIs, and we were using American Flights API. Okay, so I'll click on this and I can see all those operations. We were getting all the flights. We saw that we got all the flights. We saw that we got a flight with specific ID. We added a flight, we deleted a flight, and we did not update a flight. We will do that in the next class. Okay, right now we came here to see that why it got that if you did not provide the empty seats, it is not accepting our value, right? So we will see how it is affecting, like how it is not reflecting there. So if you come down to here in get flights, so we are doing a post call, right? We are doing a post call, so we will come to post one. And as soon as you come to post, you see all these headers and details. So first of all, it's giving an example that how whatever we will post, how it will look like. So this is what it's look like. It's just helping us that this is input you will be sending. Then the first is ID column. If you go back, let me just go back. The code is there, but you can provide ID. Then we have code. So it is saying it's string and it is required. So it is a required value. So if you don't provide the code value, again, it will throw an error. Then we have price. This is also required. We have departure date. It is also required. We have origin. It's required. We have destination. It's required. We have empty seats. It's also required. But if you see the plain type, plain, it's nothing is mentioned. So whenever it is not mentioned, that means it's a not required field. So how we can just verify it? Let's see. If we remove this plain and if we provide, let's see if it is throwing us an error or not, because it was not a required field, so it should not throw an error. So let's see that. So see, without that field, I'm able to create and I got a success response and I can see flight added. So these things you can code according to your need. So this is what you see in the websites also. Whenever you do, it's as simple as that. You just have to provide that required or not required, and it will work for you. Okay. So So yes, we had quite a few of hands-on today, and then let's move to few of the questions. So we implemented a basic mule flow. So this is the basic mule flow which we implemented, which is a hello world. We added query parameters. We used URI parameters. We saw our output using URI parameters. Then we have a few slides to cover. So these are the few slides which we will cover. Then we will move to the quiz. Okay. So don't worry, this boring things will be only in the few starting classes, because we have to make a base and we have to understand few things before actually implementing the project. So we will have few like 3-4 slides every day for a theory, and then mostly it will be hands-on. So now we saw how MuleSoft is working and everything, but what was the need of MuleSoft? Why MuleSoft was introduced? Why before MuleSoft? Why was the project and all the infrastructure was working or not? So here we will be able to see that. So previous to MuleSoft, we used to use a point-to-point project approach. What is a point-to-point project approach? In simple words, suppose you are making a web API, okay, any website like Make My Trip or any other social media website, anything which you are making. So for that, what you used to do is, in the backend, you used to do a connection to the systems. So if you have a, suppose if you have a Flipkart website, don't just see this example. I'll give you a more familiar example. So suppose you have a Flipkart website. So a Flipkart website, what are the things? This is a front-end application. Your whatever you see in your web API, it's not a mobile app yet. Okay, it is in computer. So old days before mobile, we had a computer website, right? So this is what it is depicting. A Flipkart website is hosted here, but in the background, we don't know what is happening. Background, what will happen is it will have a database where it will store all the users data. So whenever you log in, your data will be present, your order history will be present, how your address will be present, your credit card details, all those things will be present. So to maintain that, it cannot maintain it on a website. So it has to maintain a database, be it any database, SQL database or NoSQL database. It depends on the system. So we'll have a database. So suppose this is the database we have. So we have to do a direct connection to this database. Okay. And suppose we have a customer data in Salesforce. So we have to connect that customer data also to our web API. So this was good. This was working. Flipkart was working back in like 10 years back. It was working perfectly fine with the website. But later on, the evolution of mobile phones came, right? And we saw how quickly Android came and how we saw that applications being famous, right? So everything, then their research team, Flipkart marketing team and research team, data engineering team came to know that people are visiting the websites, they are seeing the cart, but they're not ordering. And when they observe the same thing with the mobile application, they see that the order delivery for mobile application is frequent. So if you observe that people will not order from the web application, but they are ordering from mobile application. So they quickly wanted to use a mobile application and roll out that feature to the people. Okay, a mobile application for Android or Google or iOS. So the problem here was they can't just add a mobile application here and use these features. They cannot do that because it is tightly coupled. The system is tightly coupled and you don't have a way here you can use a mobile application. Okay, so that is how the API-led connectivity will come into picture. So if you see, this is a common project-based approach. This was how it was implementing back then. So this, the only profit, the advantage of this was on time and within budget. That you know, okay, this I have to connect to the systems and you know the budget and it will happen in on time. But it has limited opportunity for reuse. You cannot use when you have a new application in picture. It is tight coupling. You cannot add another system here. If you have some new system coming in the future, As the technology progresses, it will be very difficult for you to connect that third system. It is difficult to govern and meets business requirements. Yeah, it meets business requirements, but it has to do some more things also. Okay, so this was a drawback of a common project-based approach. That's why MuleSoft came and it provided us an API-led connectivity. So after 6 months, as I was saying, that you'll have a new mobile application and how you will connect it. Okay, so that is why we have a API-led connectivity. And in modern API, if you see, you have a web application, you have a mobile application, and nowadays in our electric vehicle also, we are getting all the details of order details and many more details. You have IoT systems, you have Alexa systems. So these all things will be coming into the future. So our application should be designed in such a way that it has the capability to connect to any of the system at any time. Okay, so it is saying that if you wanted to create a mobile app, you had to create all these connections again. So see, if after can do a connection and again. So this, the amount of time this took, the same amount of time a mobile application will do, and you're not reusing any of the features which is already developed. So this was the drawback of point-to-point connection. So what is a API-led connectivity now? Now you see the same diagram is there, and we are able to use two components, mobile app and web app, and we can able to reuse our components. Okay, so this was our database and all the system, which we call a system API. So a system API, we are like segregated in three layers. The first layer is the system API, the second is the process API, and the third is the experience API. These three terms are very important. Just pay little attention to this. I know it's very, so it can get little boring, but these things you will be working on day-to-day basis. Your lead or your project manager will ask you to create a system API, a process API, and experience API. So you have to understand what is the difference between a system, process, and experience API. So what is a system API? So whenever you are extracting information or data from a system, it can be a database, it can be Salesforce, it can be anything, any system. You're just extracting the data. So for that, if you build an API, so you will call it a system API. Okay. So if you see an example here, I have built that project training for American. If someone will ask me, which is this API? What will I say? Is it a system API or process API or experience API? So I will say, as I'm extracting data from a system, I will say this is a system API. Okay. So that is the difference between a system API. Then what is a process API? So when I extract the data from system, and there are two systems, one is Salesforce and one is database. And when I have to do like a modification on these two data systems, then I use a process API. Okay. And the last system is the experience API. So experience API is what the user will be able to see. So if you log into any of the website, the interface which you see, it's an experience API, where it will ask us to provide the input. If you go to Arc system, this becomes our experience API. Experience is what you see and what you feel, right? So this is not a good experience. It is good for the developers, but not for the like normal people which they use. So that is why we create websites which is more user friendly. We create user interface which is more user friendly. So this is doing the same thing. I will develop a web API on top of this, and it will ask the same thing. Just give me the, it will ask, provide the flight name, provide the flight detail, and it will backend, it will do the same thing. So that is why we create a process API, or sorry, experience API. So I think it is pretty clear what is the difference between system API, process API, and experience API. If you have any questions, you can ask, or we can go ahead. Okay, so okay, we'll go ahead. And then we have one more slide for today, which we will cover, which is C4E. Okay, so this, what is C4E? So this is a team, and it is called Center for Enablement Team. So any MuleSoft project will have this team. And what is the job of this team? So, and why they are used? So I'll tell you why. So suppose you have all this system in place. You created some system APIs, you created some process APIs, you created some experience APIs. But this was created by you, and you left the organization after 6 months. So some new people will come, and they will be asked to develop an API which is using a smartwatch. Okay, and smartwatch, and they want to provide the information from the SAP customers. So what they will do, they will not know that you have already created a system API for SAP customers, and they can directly connect their watch to this API already built. They can just directly send their request, and they will get the response, right? They have to do few modification. They will not know, because they were this, it was not built by them, right? So for that, to take the advantage of already built app, and to take the advantage of reusability which is already there, we will have a C4E team, and that team will take care of all those things. It will organization to take advantage of reuse and API development. So this team will help the organization to take advantage of reusability. And they will also make sure to choose the best practices standards to help realize the following business benefits. What are the benefits? That if you use the best method available, it will be shorter development cycle, it will reduce project cost and risk, it will have fewer defects, it will be higher code quality, it will enhance governance and all the security features. Like Domino's, which got hacked 6 7 months back, it may lacked some security features. So they must have not followed some best practices available, or some policies or security policies on top of the API, and that is why it got hacked, and all the user data was vulnerable. So even your if you go to that website and just provide your number, you will get the total of how many price, how many amount of pizza you have ordered. So for some people it was coming 12,000, some was 20,000, some 1 lakh rupees. So this was very secure details which should not be um, like thrown away like this, because and your address details and all those things was compromised. So the security over your API is very important. Okay, so now we have covered all these slides. We have few basic small questions, and I would like you to just also get involved when I'm reading through and answer this question if you are able to answer it. Okay, so our first question is, what HTTP method in a RESTful web services is typically used to completely replace an existing resource? Okay, so we have all these methods, and it is asking which method I used to completely replace a resource. So we'll go through each of the options. First is get. Okay, so what get does, it fetches you all the details. Okay, so this is not the answer. Get is not the answer. We saw post. What post will do, it will post a new flight, right? It will not replace an existing flight. Let's understand from this from an example of flight. So if you have a flight, you have to post a new flight, then you'll use a post method. But you want to replace. So whenever it is about replacing an existing resource, we have two options. One is put and one is patch. When you have to completely replace, then we use put method. When you have to partially replace, you'll use patch method. Okay, so the answer for this question will be put method. Yeah, that's correct. So also these questions are taken from MuleSoft Certified Developer certification. So don't think it's very easy. These are the question, this type of questions you will face in your certifications if you're planning to do the certification. So that is why I'm covering all these questions every day. So once you are familiar with this question, then it will be very easy, and you will not have to study too much for your certification. Okay. Let's go to the next question. It's a theoretical question. So it's asking what statement is part of MuleSoft's description of an application network. So I have already told you in theory that what is a MuleSoft application network doing. Okay, so we have all this option, and the first option is creates reusable APIs and asset designed to be consumed by other business units. So this is a keyword, reusable APIs, right? So we are creating reusable APIs. So this is the correct answers. Correct answer. Let's see the other example answers also, options also. So it says creates and manage high availability and fault tolerant services. We never saw this, right? So this is not according to your question. Again, the third one is leverages central IT to deliver complete point-to-point solutions. So we are not providing point-to-point solution, right? It was the previous project structure where they're providing point-to-point solution. The last option is creates and manages a collection of JMS messaging service and infrastructure. We never saw JMS messaging services, right? We will be seeing JMS messaging service in the coming future, but it's just a part of it. It's not the complete picture. The complete picture is we are creating reusable APIs. Like the one which we created, the Hello World API, we can use it. You can, I have created, but you can also use it. Okay. So this is complete. Let's go to the third question. So it's saying, according to MuleSoft, what is the Center for Enablement's role in new IT operating model? So this is, we discussed that Center for Enablement, that C4E team. Okay. So what will be its role? If you want, you can just quickly go to the options and you can just tell me that what you feel it's right and why you feel it's right. So we'll have a better understanding.
According to
Sorry.
nothing. I was reading.
Okay.
A.
A is the answer. You're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So and Sultana, you was saying some answer, right? So what, according to you, is the answer?
Policies. I go for B.
Okay. So let's see each and all the options, that why it is correct and why it is not correct. So the first option, as mentioned by Shiva, is A. So it's saying produces and manages API policies for line of business deployments. So if you see, if you go back to our C4E example, the main aim of this is to reuse, right? Like it will create, obviously it will create, but the option is to reuse. Like I've given an example that already I have this APIs and I have left that, the first developer has left the firm, the next developer will come, they will make a new API, right? They will not know. So C4E task is to reuse the deployment, reuse the API which is already there. Okay, and it is APIs. Remember this term, this API is important. Okay, so we'll go back to our question again and we see if it's correct to us or not. So it's saying produces and manages API policies. So this is misleading. We are not creating policies, we are creating a whole fledged API. So, and it's not mentioning a reuse keyword here. So that's why this option is not correct. Okay. So next we'll see the B. So it's saying implements line of business project to enforce common security requirements. Again, it is very limited. It is not mentioning that it is reusing or developing. It's saying common security requirements. It's just back to a term which is common security. So it's not limited to security. So this is also not correct. It's partially correct, but not correct. Okay. Let's see the third one. Centrally manages partners and consultants to implement line of business project. So it's saying that it will manage partners and custom consultants and developers to implement line of business project. Okay, this is also partially correct, but it is again not saying that it is reusing or managing the asset which is already there. If you see the last option, it says creates and manages discoverable assets to be consumed by line of business developers. So this fits our need, that it creates also and manages discoverable assets, which is already there, and it tells give it to the developers, business developers. So this is the correct answer for the third question. Okay. So we'll move to the last question. I think it's an easy one. So I'll let you choose and let me know the answer. So I'll read it for you. So it's asking what MuleSoft API-led connectivity layer is intended to expose part of backend database without business logic.
Yeah, system.
Okay. And about you, Nazma?
System.
Yeah, that is correct. So we are exposing, we are not exposing the backend database, we're just extracting the data. So it is important to know that we are not, we are intending to expose part of backend database without business logic. So why we are saying that? Because if you go back to our system, here we are extracting the data from database, but we are not getting the logic to be exposed. Similarly, here we saw that we are using a system API, and here we are just getting the data. We are extracting the data, but we are not exposing this system, right? This database is deployed somewhere else. We are not exposing the system. In this way, our database is secured. So that is why MuleSoft is providing security layer also. Okay, so we are done with today's session. We have 5 minutes left. If you have any questions on today's topic, you can just ask me. And after that, 10-15 minutes, we will talk about if you have any doubts on the course and how the course will progress. So we'll give time for that. Okay. So for 5 minutes, you can ask any questions related to the project. I can go to the slides again. And if you feel you have missed or you have doubt on the slide, you can just ask me to stop. Okay. So we covered API, this example, web services, this methods. So this, as I told you, that patches partially updates the resource. Just the submitted data, and put will completely replace the resource. Then we saw this hands-on, make calls to an API. Implementing basic Mule flow. The point-to-point approach. What is the drawback of point-to-point approach? The API-led connectivity, where we have 3 system APIs, system, process, and experience API. Then the C4E. Then we saw the quiz. So from this 4 question, you will at least get 1 question from a certification. And they will have this habit to ask this system API one and this C4E one. Okay. So we'll give 3 more minutes to you if you have any questions. Otherwise, I don't have a question. We can wrap up for today.
No question.
Okay. Okay. So then, Shiva, you have any questions regarding the course which you want to answer? Question?
Yeah, yes, Kumar, but actually I have a call at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So we'll discuss tomorrow.
Sure. No problem. Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you for joining. We'll see you.
I should be reaching to press.
Sorry?
I'll be reaching to press this next.
Okay, Nasma. Okay. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.